Hare Krishna everyone. Today is the most auspicious day of Gita Jayanti. So it's very nice to reflect on the glories, to sing the glories of the Bhagavad Gita. For those of you who are not very familiar, the Bhagavad Gita is known as the Gita Upanishad. It is the essence of Vedic knowledge, one of the most important Upanishads in Vedic literature. It was spoken 5,000 years ago by the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. It comprises 18 chapters, 700 verses, and in these 700 verses, the Supreme Lord explains a lot of things. He explains 5 basic truths: the Ishvara, the Supreme Controller, the Supreme Lord himself, the Supreme Brahman. He talks about the jiva, the living entity, the soul, prakriti, material nature, kala, time, the duration of existence of the complete manifestation of material nature. And he talks about karma as well, more specifically material activity. So in this session we're going to have a look at a few quotes by Prabhupada, our spiritual master, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, who translated the Bhagavad Gita in English as it is, without adulteration, so it can benefit the whole of mankind. So the Bhagavad Gita is, it saves the whole mankind from the darkness of this material existence, and it's not sectarian, so anyone can read it and benefit from it, because we are originally the soul, and we're tiny sparks of the super soul of the Supreme Lord, Supreme Personality of Godhead. So the spirit of Bhagavad Gita is mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita itself. Actually, the Bhagavad Gita is just like a cow, and Lord Krishna, who is a cowherd boy, is milking this cow, and the milk is the essence of the Vedas, and Arjuna is just like a calf. The wise men, the great sages, and the pure devotees are to drink the nectarian milk of Bhagavad Gita. So we are very fortunate that we can drink the milk that Lord Krishna has milked from the cow. And we can read the Bhagavad Gita, we can get it from our local temple, we can get it online, but we should always get the Bhagavad Gita as it is, because the Bhagavad Gita as it is has been translated without adulteration, without personal opinion and personal comments by our spiritual master, as I mentioned, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. So once a guest asked Prabhupada, a guest came to the realization, and he said to Prabhupada, the whole problem is we have not read Bhagavad Gita. And Prabhupada said, yes, so now read it. No, it is better late than never. You have never read Bhagavad Gita. Now read it. The movement is there for this purpose. Now read it. So Bhagavad Gita means to understand what is God, the science of God, as Prabhupada says in a lecture, and God himself is speaking about himself. Otherwise, it is not possible to understand what is God. So if we carefully understand the shlokas and the passages mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita, we can understand what is God, and the human form of life is meant for understanding God. He has no other business. So this Bhagavad Gita has been spoken by the Supreme Lord himself. As Prabhupada said, God himself is speaking. It's not a concoction. It is not somebody who's made it up. It's coming from the Supreme Lord. He is giving instructions because the previous instructions were lost and humankind has forgotten about his instructions. So Krishna, the Supreme Lord, he is so compassionate that he reminds us. So previously Krishna spoke this knowledge to the sun god, but with time this knowledge got lost in the chain in which it was coming down to the people. So Krishna spoke it again, and this time he spoke it to Lord Brahma, and Lord Brahma then conveyed this knowledge to Narad Muni here, and Narad Muni then became the guru of Srila Vyasadeva, who then wrote this knowledge down. For the first time it was written down, because Srila Vyasadeva knew that the memory of people in this age of Kali would become shorter, people wouldn't remember everything. So he very kindly wrote it down, and that's how we were able to read the book. So he passed it on to Madhava and to Padmanabha, and then Narahari took the knowledge and passed it on to Madhava. So we can see the whole chain of disciplic succession. We have Lord Chaitanya, who is none other than Krishna himself in this chain, and this knowledge then got passed on all the way, and we can see on the left, bottom left, Srila Prabhupada. He is the one who translated the Sanskrit to English so we can understand it, and he did not add any of his personal views or opinions. He translated it as it was, but he helps us to understand in his commentary in the purports, and these purports are really powerful and explained in a very a very simple way. So this Bhagavad Gita, as Prabhupada says in the lecture, the subject matter is comprehending 5 different truths. The first truth is, what is God? And that's a question a lot of people ask. It is the preliminary study of the science of God. So that science of God is explained there. The next topic is the constitutional position of the living beings, the living entities called Jiva. The Supreme Lord is called Ishvara. Ishvara means controller, and the Jivas, the living entities, they are being controlled by God. So the next topic is Prakriti, the material nature. So the nature we're living in, the world we're living in, is controlled by an energy of the Lord called Prakriti. The next topic in this Bhagavad Gita is also time, Kala, the duration of existence of the whole universe, or this manifestation of the material nature. And also we've got karma, meaning activity. This whole universe, as Prabhupada says, this whole cosmic manifestation is full of different activities. The living beings especially, they're all engaged in different activities. So we should study from the Bhagavad Gita all these very, very important topics. So the Bhagavad Gita is very, very powerful, as we said. It's the essence of all the Vedic knowledge. So it's spoken by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, and therefore people may not read all other Vedic literatures. Prabhupada says simply if he attentively and regularly reads and hears Bhagavad Gita, Gita Sugita Kartavya, and one should adopt this means by all means. Gita Sugita Kartavya Kim Anye Shastra Vitare Rahe. Because at the present age, people are embarrassed with so many things, it is hardly possible to divert his attention in all the Vedic scriptures. This one scripture will do because it is the essence of all Vedic literature, and especially spoken by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Supreme Lord himself is speaking it, and so we all need to just accept his instructions. But obviously it needs to be not by scholarly knowledge, not by just reading it ourselves. We can't understand much. We should seek a spiritual master who can enlighten us, who can explain the Bhagavad Gita to us. The spirit of Bhagavad Gita, as Prabhupada says in the Bhagavad Gita purports, the spirit of the Bhagavad Gita is mentioned in Bhagavad Gita itself. It is just like this. It's something easy to understand. If we want to take a particular medicine, then we have to follow the directions written on the label. We cannot take the medicine according to our own whim or the direction of a friend. It must be taken according to the directions on the label or the directions given by a physician. Similarly, Bhagavad Gita should be taken or accepted as it is directed by the speaker himself. And the parampara helps us to understand this knowledge. So Srila Prabhupada says, I am publishing Bhagavad Gita as it is, because in the market there are so many Bhagavad Gitas misinterpreted, but that is not the process of presenting Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita should be presented as it is. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is simply said that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But most books which you have seen in English language, they're trying to take Krishna out of the picture. So that's the importance of reading Bhagavad Gita as it is. Prabhupada says we're presenting Bhagavad Gita as it is. So how do we know that he is presenting Bhagavad Gita as it is? Or do we simply take his word for it? Well, yes, but also we can see the potency. We can perceive so many devotees have come about from reading Bhagavad Gita as it is. So Prabhupada himself says, for the last so many years I'm speaking in Western countries, so many swamis, so many yogis come. They speak also on Bhagavad Gita, but because they misinterpret it, not a single devotee was made, not a single devotee was there. But when Srila Prabhupada presented the Bhagavad Gita as it is, the potency was so strong that it made devotees. So it's very important that we accept the Bhagavad Gita through the parampara system. Also, one thing to understand is the spirit in which we should take up Bhagavad Gita studies. It should be taken up in a spirit of devotion. We should not think, Prabhupada says himself, that we should not think that we are equal to Krishna, nor should we think that Krishna is an ordinary personality, or even just a great personality. We should understand the position of Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So according to the statements of Bhagavad Gita, or the statements of Arjuna to whom it's being spoken, the person who is trying to understand the Bhagavad Gita should at least theoretically accept Shri Krishna as the personality of Godhead, and with that submissive spirit can we understand the Bhagavad Gita. So Bhagavad Gita will remain a very big mystery if we just try to read it in a skeptical way without a submissive spirit. So we see that Arjuna was an intimate friend of Krishna before receiving the Srimad Bhagavad Gita. He surrendered himself. He no longer considered himself a friend. Actually, he became subservient. He considered himself a disciple. He said, "Oh Krishna, now I am your disciple and a soul surrendered unto you. Please instruct me." So Arjuna is an elevated devotee, and he is teaching us through his example how we receive knowledge and how we should become humble and beg for this knowledge. So that's very, very important when we are taking up the study of Bhagavad Gita. Srila Prabhupada says, as soon as we chant Hare Krishna or we chant Bhagavad Gita, so Krishna, he is present immediately by his vibrations. He is absolute. Therefore, try to remember his words of instruction, and you will not feel separation. You will feel that Krishna is with you. So we should associate by vibration and not by physical presence, and that is real association. So a lot of times people will say, where is your God? Can I see him? Well, actually, we can't order God around like he is our servant. He's the Supreme Lord, and if we want to see him, then we should chant his holy names with love and devotion, and we should chant the Bhagavad Gita in such a way that he, the Supreme Lord, wants to see us, and then he will allow himself to be seen. Similarly, when we are reading the Bhagavad Gita, we will not understand a single thing unless the Supreme Lord is pleased with us and reveals himself. So we can learn Bhagavad Gita, we can learn the verses by heart, but we will not fully understand the Bhagavad Gita. We will not understand it unless Krishna is pleased by our devotion, unless he reveals himself to us. Then only can we understand the Bhagavad Gita. So Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, "Na cha tasman manushyesu kaschin me priya kritamaha." Bhagavad Gita 18.69. One who is doing this humble service of preaching work, Krishna consciousness, nobody is dearer than him to me. So if you want to become recognized by Krishna very quickly, you take up this process of becoming spiritual master, presenting the Bhagavad Gita as it is, then your life is perfect. So Prabhupada encouraged all the devotees to go out and distribute the Bhagavad Gita to everyone. And that's why the devotees go out. They're not going out to make money, or it's not like a commercial thing. They're not salesmen. The intent is to share this most amazing treasure of Bhagavad Gita with others. That's the instruction of a guru. Prabhupada said these books are so potent that anyone who reads them is sure to become Krishna conscious. So it is very valuable service to distribute our books. So today is the most auspicious Gita Jayanti day, and if we want to please Krishna, then the instructions are there. He gives instructions of how to please him. So we should all go out and distribute these books generously to everyone. We should make it a gift for our loved ones. Give this Bhagavad Gita to others. So, Prabhupada writes some very important things here in the purport. He says that Bhagavad Gita is a transcendental literature which one should read very carefully. Gita Shastram idam punyam yaha pathet prayataha puman. If one properly follows the instructions of Bhagavad Gita, one can be freed from all the miseries and anxieties of life. Bhaya shokadi varjitaha. One will be freed from all fears in this life, and one's next life will be spiritual. Actually, this is said by Lord Shiva, the greatest Vaishnava himself, in the Gita Mahatmya. There is also a further advantage. If one reads Bhagavad Gita very sincerely and with all seriousness, then by the grace of the Lord, the reactions of his past misdeeds will not act upon him. In the second verse of Gita Mahatmya, this is mentioned. The Lord also says very loudly in the last portion of Bhagavad Gita, in Bhagavad Gita verse 18.66, Sarvadharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayishyami masuchaha. Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear. Thus the Lord, he takes all responsibility for one who surrenders unto him, and he indemnifies such a person against all reactions of sin. The Gita Mahatmya verse number 3 states, one may cleanse himself daily by taking a bath in water, but if one takes a bath even once in the sacred Ganges water of Bhagavad Gita, for him the dirt of material life is altogether vanquished. So Bhagavad Gita comes from the mouth of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the Ganges is said to emanate from the lotus feet of the Lord. Of course, Prabhupada says there is no difference between the mouth and the feet of the Supreme Lord, but from an impartial study we can appreciate that Bhagavad Gita is even more important than the water of the Ganges. In this present day, Prabhupada says people are very much eager to have one scripture, one God, one religion, and one occupation. Therefore, Ekam Shastram Devaki Putra Gitam. Let there be one scripture only, one common scripture for the whole world. Bhagavad Gita. Eko Devo Devaki Putra Eva. Let there be one God for the whole world. Shri Krishna. Eko Mantra Tasya Namani. And one hymn, one mantra, one prayer, the chanting of his holy name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Karmapi ekam tasya devasya seva. And let there be one work only, the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Jai Shri Shri Radha Madhava Jai Panchatattva Shri Shri Panchatattva Ki Jai.